Within the city of Richmond, the capital of the state of Virginia, lives a legend, the story of the Richmond Vampire. A legend that may or may not have started over 100 years ago. To start, we need to look at the events that transpired and gave birth to the legend. Not just those events, but others that preceded even that one, and how they were drawn into the lore that is just one of many in haunted Virginia. The city of Richmond, the capital of the state of Virginia. Historic landmarks can be found all around with a rich history, colorful, and sometimes tragic backstory. The city is both known for its good and bad sides of history. It's the city I grew up in, been here since birth, and explored and lived in nearly every corner and edge in my time here. I've heard stories and witnessed even stranger ones. Some I've written about, others are still writing themselves. Walking down any given street in the areas between the Fan District and Shockoe Bottom, you could be walking on the same cobblestone streets that horses and carriages once trotted down. To begin, we must first look at the events that led to this mythological creature that once lurked the streets of downtown Virginia. In 1873, the Chesapeake and Ohio Railway were looking to connect their tracks to a set in the Shockoe Bottom area of lower downtown Richmond. The tracks would run beneath a part of the city known as Church Hill, but the area can also be referred to as Union Hill. The west end of the tunnel would be located on 18th and Marshall Street, with the east of the tunnel coming out north of Williamsburg Road near 31st Street, and right below the city's Libby Terrace Park. The project was completed in the year 1881 and was aptly named the Peninsula Subdivision and transported loads of commerce, mostly coal, from coast to coast. Construction on this project was not, however, without its problems. The city of Richmond didn't have the bedrock the company was used to when building Western railroads. Richmond's clay soil adjusted and changed based on how much rainwater it absorbed, which caused some cave-ins early in its life. A viaduct was created to thwart this problem in 1890. The project was completed around 1901, and rail cars opted to use this route as opposed to the tunnel to get their coal shipments to Newport News. It would lead to the disuse and disrepair of the tunnel until around 1925, when work began to restore the tunnel for use once again. On October 2nd of that year, a collapse in the tunnel had trapped a steam locomotive near the western end and had to shut down a streetcar that serviced that area. Around 200 workers crawled beneath the cars that were attached to the locomotive, and miraculously, they escaped out of the rear end of the tunnel. One of those men was Benjamin F. Mosby, a fireman who was working on the train. We'll come back to him later. Not everyone made it out, and a handful of workers, including engineer Thomas J. Mason, were killed in the collapse. The recovery crews were only able to recover the body of Mason, as the constant cave-ins made recovery and rescue efforts practically impossible. And as more time progressed and more cave-ins occurred, that following spring, the Virginia State Corporate Commission ordered the tunnel sealed for safety reasons, citing the possibility of a complete failure and cave-in. The western end was blocked up and sealed, and the east end left partially sealed due to the collapse. Inside the dark and cloistered tunnel lies an entire line of 10 flat rail cars and one steam locomotive, engine 231, to move them along. Also beneath the tunnel are the remains of the workers who would not escape this horrific fate. And to this very day, they sit right there beneath that mound of dirt and debris, apartment buildings, a park, and even city streets, all right above it. Now, this is where the origins for the Richmond Vampire begins. Remember, I mentioned that one of the men who managed to escape was 28-year-old Benjamin Mosby? And from the witness accounts, it said that an explosion from a steam boiler he was shoveling coal into had burned his body real bad, and that combined with the cave-in left him severely lacerated. He lost and chipped a few of his teeth. He was just burned to the point that some of his skin was hanging off. He was later taken to Grace Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries and was buried in the Hollywood Cemetery in 1925. All right. So this is the apartment building that they built. Okay. And they do have a gate to prevent anyone who doesn't live here, to prevent them from going in. But I can still go around here and show you um, what the entrance is. And you see this, all of this, this is all the original building that was there. They just repainted the names. But yeah, this is all what used to be here. Factories and industrial buildings. And again, this is right off of 18th, and you can see we're coming up on the tunnel here. Like I said, it's a gate right here to keep people from going in, but you can get a glimpse of the tunnel there. It has 1926 etched in the stone, and all that stonework is still the same as it was in the 1800s. The stonework surrounding that. I wish I can get a better view. Now I won't go around the side of the other side. The other side isn't sealed up, but it has caved in so much that they didn't have to seal it up, and it's a lot of swampy water you have to walk through to get to it. So I'm not going to go through that end, but that was just an example of what it looks like now. The Hollywood Cemetery was established in the Oregon Hill area of Richmond, south of Cherry Street near Virginia Commonwealth University. Because Richmond was the capital of the Confederate Army, many officers of the Confederacy are buried and honored there, including the 5th President James Monroe and the 10th President John Tyler. other important individuals such as J.B. Stewart, Jefferson Davis, and George Pickett, just to name a few. Over 11,000 Confederate soldiers are memorialized there, in addition to a 90-foot stone pyramid dedicated to those fallen soldiers. Rumors abound that the digging beneath the city streets unearthed a sleeping evil which caused a cave-in. Other stories swirl that a beastly creature appeared from the rubble with sharp claws that appeared to be gripping scraps of flesh, a hunched back, and fangs that dripped blood. This unholy creature became to be known as the Richmond Vampire. And this could be an over-embellished story of a bloody Benjamin Mosby being pulled from the collapse, all gory and burned and limp and missing teeth. They say a few locals chased the creature with bats and pipes, allegedly all the way up the hill, 2.5 miles away to the Hollywood Cemetery, where the beast took refuge within the mausoleum where William Wortham Poole is buried. Now, William Wortham Poole was an American bookkeeper from Mississippi who moved to Virginia in 1860. Why he became associated with the legend could stem from the surrounding college students that embellished stories about the beast that escaped from the collapse after eating men trapped within and ran back to the safety of his catacomb. And here we have grave, mausoleum, crypt of W. Poole, the alleged Richmond Vampire. And you can see his tomb has been raided a few times. One of the windows there are broke. You can see a few things that people have left wake of spelunking and just trying to get a look inside the crypt there. And it should be noted that Mr. Poole, as well as his wife, their bodies were moved because of the issues that they had with the people, trying to break in and whatnot. And you can see the door's been pried open right there. Um, but yeah, yeah, and you have it. They say a few locals chased the creature with bats and pipes, allegedly all the way up the hill, 2.5 miles away to the Hollywood Cemetery, where the beast took refuge within the mausoleum where William Wortham Poole is buried. William Wortham Poole was an American bookkeeper from Mississippi who moved to Virginia in 1860. Why he became associated with the legend could stem from the surrounding college students that embellished stories about a beast that escaped from the collapse after eating the men trapped within and ran back to the safety of his catacombs. They would say that Poole was run out of England because he was a vampire, and that could stem from his ornately decorated tomb with carvings of animals and man and intricate symbols and a lonely lamb sitting atop it all. It said a stone slab once crowned the top of the tomb with words inscribed relating to a child and a lion. It broke off from the top and was never repaired. His wife was buried in the tomb which he constructed in 1913, with his burial to follow hers after his death at the age of 80 in 1922. And over the years, as the locals and those who heard of the legend began to give life to this myth, vandalism and break ins began to occur at the mausoleum. Vampire hunters, occultists, and adventure seekers all wanted to experience it. And you can still see markings and trinkets left behind by these spelunkers, so much so that the bodies of Poole and his wife had to be relocated. And there you have it. The legends are just that, legends, myths, bedtime stories told around a campfire or to spook little children before bedtime. Whatever you believe, there's no solid proof that vampires actually exist. And on the flip side of that coin, there's no proof that they don't. And if you believe in God and angels, then you have to believe in the devil and demons. And somewhere in between, anything is possible. Thank you. All right, and you can see how the construction of these gates at the cemetery are made. This construction from the 1800s, largely still intact, as I said before. Um, I tried to talk to the security guard um, that's in charge of maintaining, the welfare of the patrons that visit the cemetery, and he didn't want to go on camera, but he did tell me that there's been a lot of things going on with people coming here and trying to set up equipment to monitor for ghosts and whatnot, and they have to shut them down. And but he didn't want to go on camera, and I respected that. But yeah, lots of historical architecture here.